And you brought up
Yeah.
Dear Rima. Yeah, I started that because I just wanted to formalize this.
Yeah.
You know, the trend that has happened throughout my life, that has been my education. You know, it's when somebody asks you for your insight that you really dig in and you're like, okay, how can I cook up something worthwhile to
For
give
them.
you know? And
Yeah.
so Dear Rima came out of it. It's a natural evolution of what it is I am and what it is I do, and it's the formalized version of it, where people write in about their deepest, darkest pains in their moment of deepest, darkest pain.
Wow.
Usually, you know, one of the letters was a woman who had been sexually assaulted 9 years ago and just had never been able to heal it. And so, yeah, it's not a casual response that I hit send on, you know. Each one it's like a chapter in a book.
Yeah.
And
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for this year now.
Okay.
So a little less than years. I started in the spring because, you know, so the book we've been referencing, you know, I Am Yours, that one right now, my agent Lisa is circulating it through publishing houses for us to find our ideal publisher. And so once the manuscript left my hands, you know, while we were going through the final revision on the final draft, I started doing Dear Rima. So that was in, like March.
That's cool.
And because
it'll
I'm
be established
constantly...
and it'll be supporting the book when the book comes out.
But also it's... Yeah, that is absolutely one of the things.
All of your work kind of interconnects.
But it's like, I'm never not going to be cooking up something.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find different ways to make people feel loved and empowered.
Just more facets of using your gifting and your story to help others. I see it all as complementary. Not really in a branding way, just in the authenticity of the work you're doing.
And I honestly, like, I live and breathe this. I wake up, you know, so excited by the latest, like, scheme. Like, right now, you know, taking this to colleges. How do I just figure out different models of this one larger message, which is we are each the authors of our lives, and we can, all we need we hold within. Like, how do I really help that messenger, that message? You know, how can I be an effective ambassador for that message? How can I be the most humblest and effective and intelligent and resourceful ambassador for that message? That's all I'm ever obsessed. I'm obsessed with that. It's like, how do I best do this?
You just quickly before we go to break, this piece that our listeners heard at the beginning of the show, that's chapter 23 of your book.
Yes.
You performed that for the first time?
That was the first time that you saw. And like you said, like, it was, you know, it's not something to be read. It's, you know, I memorized it and I had rehearsed it for weeks going up. And what was interesting was so many of the other pieces that were performed that night, that were read that night, were, you know, about the post-election, the election results, and were specifically written for that, or was speaking to that. But strangely enough, my piece, although I had chosen it months ago when Dami asked me to perform, it was so timely and timeless. It was so relevant. Hearing the pain and desperation and helplessness of a young brown immigrant girl who felt that here was something that happened to her and she had no social agency. She had no representation in society that was going to speak up for her. And I have been so grateful for those experiences in my life, because every time I have felt that nobody's going to be holding the torch for me, that's only, again, just told me, like, I just got to keep on doing that for myself. And that has informed who I am. And it has worked to my benefit because I've chosen for it to work in my benefit, you know, to help me get stronger. But the piece was very timely because, again, it was it's timely and timeless. These are the voices that need to be heard. These are the stories that we, maybe now as a culture, because of the political climate, the necessity has become all the more pronounced.
Yeah.
People have grown intolerant of pretending to ignore or ignoring voices of the marginalized. And those of us who are marginalized, we have grown absolutely intolerant. Like there's no more, we're not going to mince words anymore. And we are all the more galvanized to speak directly and loudly and decisively. And
our recent guest, Caleb Stevens, spoke in this very same voice. Yeah.
I loved that episode.
He is something else.
He's something else. And,
I wonder if you could speak to one question, and then we're going to go to break, and I want to ask you something to lead us into break. But what made you, Dami Shoemaker, the author, the activist, the curator of Burnt Tongue, and all around troublemaker here in Portland, former OTB guest and co-conspirator in Lydia's corporeal writing tornado as well. Dami is the one who introduced us, and so we have Dami to thank for you being on the show. And then you brought that piece to Burnt Tongue, and so I want to give a shout out to Dami and maybe see if you want to say anything to Dami. But also, what made you, think, that you were going to come share that piece and be that vulnerable with Burnt Tongue? What was it about Dami or Burnt Tongue that made you think these folks are worthy of this level of intimacy and sharing from you?
Well, thank you for phrasing it in that way, but it's actually, I never would phrase it that way in my own head, and I think that's maybe the answer to your question, which is...
We felt very honored that you brought that piece to us, especially someone who hadn't, we don't have a long history of intimacy and relationship with you, so it was a very vulnerable thing for you to just throw that out there and trust that we were going to follow you.
Yeah.
Where we needed to follow you.
I think because I am so committed to the message, to girls and women and men too, to human beings, that you are the authority you need at the end of the day. You are the leader that you need to hear at the end of the day. You're the only voice that can, yours is the voice that will lead you to the light. Like, I'm so committed to helping spread that message that I never feel vulnerable. I never feel hesitant to take it into any setting, to bring it to anyone. And people have asked me, does it feel nerve-wracking to share this kind of material that is so intimate? Not in the least, because it hasn't... Yes, it has everything to do with me, but it also has nothing to do with me. I'm so committed to the work, but more than the work, I'm so committed to the person that person in the audience who needs to hear that message. I'm committed to them. And so my nerves or anxiety or insecurity have no space on that stage. And I'm never nervous when I do performances that these kind, I'm never ever, because, and I tell myself this before I walk into a room or walk onto stage, like that night, I said, I'm not here to play small. I'm not here to play big. I'm here to be a messenger and a leader. That's all. And it can sound arrogant, but it's coming from this deep place of service. And that's why I never feel vulnerable. It has very little to do with me.